Hey guys, it's Charlie, and you are watching Sunday on Our Pagan Opinions. I switched spots with Kristen, or rather she switched spots for me and helped me out because I was having some technical difficulties on Wednesday getting my video to upload because I needed a new USB cable for my camera. So first I'll just apologize for the no makeup thing. It's just been kind of a bummy day. I went into work for a few hours this morning, then I came home and I had some readings that I did tonight, and I didn't feel like putting makeup on, so I'm sorry if you are offended. So this week we're talking about ancestry and paganism, and it comes from Random1970, and Random1970 writes, I've recently had a calling to rediscover my own people's history, and that has taken me back to a very primitive pagan culture in the Slavic countries, mainly in the Ukraine. I was quite surprised to learn that this tribe would burn their village down every 60 to 80 years with the belief that everything had to go through life, death, and rebirth, like the earth, including everything they had established as a people. I find this so fascinating because, personally, I have this primal urge to start fresh every decade or so. We just seem to purge and move every 10 to 12 years, lol. It occurred to me that perhaps this whole urge could be indigenous in some way, or even across the ocean in time. I have followed a pagan path for as long as I can remember, but all my life, from my family stories, etc., I'd always thought that my ancestors came from a Christian background. What are your feelings on the topic? Could paganism be a genetic primal thing and not just a group of faiths formed from environmental conditioning? Have you had or currently have some sort of calling to find your own ancestral roots in some way? So, this is a really, really, really good topic, and most of you know that I am part Japanese, and I have been on this path. I started studying this path and being called to this path when I was 11 or 12, and even before that I had this really deep admiration for nature. I was always outside learning about different kinds of insects and learning. I had the Encyclopedia Britannica specifically for the sole purpose of, when I found animals, I would bring them home, I would read about them and learn about what they ate and how long they lived and what type of species they were and all about them, and then I let them go. And that kind of went on with me through my early adolescent years, when my cats, we lived in the country, and they were like indoor-outdoor cats, so we'd let them outside and they'd come back always with like birds or rabbits or mice, and they would bring them up alive because cats do that. I was reading once in a cat book when I was younger, the reason that cats do that is for one, to get praise from you, and also to show you how to hunt, because they view you as their children, and that, you're not smart enough, you're a human, you need to learn how to hunt. So they bring it up to see, like, look at, this is what you do, you go out and you get mice. And they would always bring them up while they were still alive, and I would be like, oh, good job, Emily, good job, Mugsy, and then when they thought I was praising them, I'd quick steal the animal, and I would nurse it back to health and set it free. And, you name it, I had a baby bunny, I had multiple birds, I had tons of mice. One time one of them brought a rat home, and I think that was mainly at moles. Sometimes they would get moles. So I've always had this appreciation for nature, and then as I got older, obviously that translated into my spiritual practice. Now, the religion of the Japanese people historically has been Shinto, and then later was merged with Buddhism, and they coexisted as two distinct religions, but they coexist very peacefully together. Shinto did and Buddhism. So Shinto Buddhism is something I'm extremely drawn to and extremely interested in, but I haven't completely immersed myself in studying it, so I'm not like knowledgeable enough to do a video on it or anything. But one thing that is kind of interesting to me is that my mother, I grew up with my mother, and I had very little contact with my biological father until I was a little bit older, and the reason was because my mom was married, and we kind of had this family thing going, and my dad didn't really want to interfere, and my mom had asked me when I was like 6, do you want to see your biological dad? And I told her no. Actually, I was probably younger than that. I was probably 5. But later, as I grew up, I met him. So I never really had too much interaction with my dad's side of the family until I got a little bit older. And even just as recently as a couple years ago, my dad was telling me these stories of my grandma doing energy work and doing my Japanese grandma, because I'm Japanese on my dad's side, doing different like energy work and things like that. And that was always something that I was extremely called to and extremely interested in. And I never really, I just thought it was something that I was interested in. I never thought of it being genetic or ancestral in any way. But, I mean, it definitely could be. But at the same time, I don't think that, that's cause for anyone to claim that anyone's more of a pagan or more of a witch or more of a Wiccan or whatever your case may be than anyone else, simply because I can trace it back in my bloodline. I think that your spirituality really does have to do with your spirit, and I think that spirit transcends space and time, transcends space as in the earth and different cultures, and transcends time as in just historically and ancestrally. And I think that spirit really transcends all of that. I mean, I know spirit transcends all of that. So although it's extremely interesting to me and to entertain the idea that, my family's been practicing these ways for, or certain things about, like not specifically the way that I practice, but certain things like energy work, or on my mom's side of the family, her aunt used to take her out and they would go find rocks and crystals in the fields. And just different things here and there, like different natural medicines that have been kind of passed down through my family, and different like little rituals or folklore, things like that have been passed down through both sides of my family and kind of filtered into me. It's very interesting to entertain the idea, but really what I'm concerned about now is just me here now and learning about and growing my spirit in this day and age and this time. So for me personally, it's a very interesting concept and something that I do love to think about, but it's not something that I feel is what makes me me, or what makes my practice my practice. It's something that's just sort of the icing on the cake and a little bit of a kind of a side note to my practice, but it's not anything that I would fully credit as creating me into who I am. So that's my take on it. And yeah, I think I answered all the questions. Yeah. Alright, so you guys have a great week, and thanks again, Kristen, for posting for me on Wednesday so I can have your Sunday, and I will talk to you guys all soon. I love you, and blessed be.